how the situation in Aleppo is currently?
Yes, of course, I'm in constant contact with Aleppo. I would like to mention the last time I talked was the day before yesterday. The Genbank is operational, I want to say. And of course, the problem remains with the whole issue of security, which is not very good. One thing I want to mention, of course, that the electricity which feeds the Genbanks is better than before. So we don't have to rely on the generators as we usually do when there is an electricity cut.
And what does it mean, security problems?
Security problems, it depends where you are in Aleppo. Some places are safe, but half of the city is divided. Unfortunately, the old city is, I don't want to say completely damaged, but very seriously damaged. The old bazaar, which was probably the second largest in the Middle East after Istanbul, has been burned, which is very sad. Yeah.
And how is your staff doing in Syria?
We have now, of course, before the unfortunate developments in Syria, we had something like 430 Syrian staff. Now, if we look for those who are outside Syria and inside Syria, we have about 120. In Syria, we have about 50 staff members, mostly concerned with the Genbank and some other work related to our work with the University of Aleppo.
And how are they doing personally? I mean, can they work?
Yes, let me tell you, I know that the Seed Health Lab, which is established now again in our guest house in Aleppo, is working. Before, I would say a year ago, they used to have good access to the Genbank. Now they have access to the Genbank, but it's difficult to get seed in and out. So the situation certainly is not as good as, I would say, 7 or 8 months before. And we cross our fingers for the Genbank to continue operational. And we are now putting some effort to see if we can move the long-term collection that we have there to a safe place in Aleppo itself, because our station is about 30 kilometers south of Aleppo on the way to Damascus. And it is really under the control of armed groups. 2 groups are there. One of them is disciplined relatively better than the other. The other one is from the local village groups that are really trying to exploit the land that we really have in the station. Okay.
What was about your mission to save or rescue the Genbank? What was the hardest part?
Okay, the hardest part was, when we really, of course, ICARDA has been always making sure that we duplicate our germplasm even under normal circumstances, because you worry about fire, you worry about earthquake. So we always had a good proportion of our Genbank duplicated with other Genbanks in the world. So I think at the time when the security situation in southern Syria deteriorated, we looked at what's the proportion of our germplasm has been safely duplicated. I remember very well I talked to Dr. Amri, and he mentioned 87% of it is duplicated outside already. So we had 13% that the Genbank group under the genetic resource section had to work hard within 3 months to duplicate the material, and we took them to 2 countries. One is Lebanon, neighboring country, the other one is Turkey. And the one in Turkey, we had to ask actually kindly the board member of ICARDA, who is the director of the agriculture research in the ministry, to come to the border to let the seed in, because there is difficulties to move seed into Turkey. So now we have in Ankara Genbank about 14,000 accessions, and in Lebanon we have another 14,000 accessions. These were really the seeds that were not duplicated somewhere else. The other thing that we did also in Icarda is to duplicate still our germplasm in Svalbard seed vault in Norway, where we have now 80% of the Genbank holdings are also in Norway. So we are duplicating them in more than one place to be on the safe side. And I have to commend again the head of our genetic resources section, Dr. Amri, and the colleagues in Syria for working hard. Let me tell you, even when the war was going on, they were managing to take seed out of Syria, which was, well, of course, you see, there is always one way to go via Latakia, and there are long way via Damascus to go. So they will really take tertiary roads, and I would say roads that are relatively safe to move the seed out. But certainly we have been lucky enough that the situation did not deteriorate in northern Syria until later. The unfortunate developments in Syria started in March 2011 in the south, and up till July 2012, things were relatively safe in around Aleppo and near Tal Hadia station, our main station. So by that time, we have moved gradually, not only the gene bank material, but also the sophisticated equipment that we have in the labs. We moved them from Tal Hadia station, which is in a remote area, to the Aleppo, where we had apartments of our expatriates evacuated, so we put them there safely. So we have quite a bit of the equipment still safe in Aleppo now,
Were you or your staff member ever in any physical danger?
Unfortunately, we had twice people kidnapped. We recovered them. There was one actually veterinarian who is still kidnapped. He was actually moving livestock from Syria, because besides the plant genetic resources, we do have animal genetic resources, particularly sheep and goats. So we were moving about 127 heads of, I would say, improved rams and lambs and so forth. He was moving them to Lebanon when he was really kidnapped. But I think so far we really don't know where he is, unfortunately. Yeah, this is the only unfortunate incident that we faced in the center.
How about your personal feelings when you think about your work in Syria?
It's really sad, because very frankly it was like a paradise for us, to be frank with you, because Syria and Aleppo in particular, life was so pleasant, life was generally easy, and the living conditions were excellent. The people were very friendly. That's why you are very surprised with what's happening now. And one thing I want to mention to you, our center, which was covering and still cover about 1,000 hectares with very, I would say, advanced labs. It's so sad to see an investment of 35 years, could have been sort of halted all of a sudden. One thing I want to mention to you is that in, I think, 2008 or 2009, we had a delegation from the European Parliament visiting Icarda from the Committee on Agriculture. The chairman of that committee, when he saw Icarda, the gene bank, the labs, the work we are doing, he said, Icarda is the best kept secret of Syria, which can tell you a lot. The other point I want to mention, that our center was well known globally, to the point that the President of India, when she came to Syria on a state visit, she came specifically to visit Icarda in the north, to the point that the governor of Aleppo was not happy. He said, my God, she comes to Aleppo, she doesn't see Aleppo, but she sees Icarda, which was very, very unfortunate for him, of course. But we were very proud that the president came. She was from Rajasthan. She likes dry areas, and she's interested in dry areas.
Do you look forward to going back?
It's a dream for us to go back, but looking at the political situation and how things are developed, you don't think it will be easy to go back immediately. I am sure it will take good time. Even if the situation is settled, the problems, the security situation will still be bad because, as you would expect, there are arms now everywhere in Syria. So until really the situation becomes secure enough, it will be certainly some time. But no doubt about it, as long as our main buildings are intact, as they are now, and the Genbank is still working, we can recover quickly. This is what I wanted to say, because the commitment of the staff is very much there. Okay.
Syria is one of the oldest cultural centers in the world, and especially with regard to modern farming. Are you afraid that all of this will be gone when you come back?
It's difficult to tell, but very frankly, in Syria, you have good farming community, good farmers, and to be frank, some of the armed groups that are there did have farmers whom we dealt with before. So they knew Ikarda, they knew what we are doing, they knew that we are to help the small farmers. We are a non-profit organization, we're not politically oriented, and so forth. That's why there is some level of respect still, even with the armed groups, to the center. But how this will develop, it will be very difficult to tell you, because in these civil strifes, every day can be different. And we're very concerned, certainly. We are following it closely, I would say regularly, to make sure how things are. And whenever we can intervene through influential people, we don't really hesitate to do that. Okay, this is what I wanted to say.
Okay. What do you see for yourself and your work in the future?
Well, let me tell you one thing, that what happened in Syria was a good eye-opener for Ikarda management, in the sense that we realized it was time to do decentralization. We have put all our eggs in one basket for 35, 36 years. So it was time that we really go out and decentralize our activities. Therefore, when we really went out at the beginning, we relocated the staff without really good, I would say, rational thinking. We were only taking into consideration where we have projects, where we have good work. And one thing I have to mention, and for the record, to express appreciation to our national partners who opened their doors to Ikarda when we left Syria. Because of the confidence that we have built over 35 years, and they know that we mean good business in terms of sustainable agriculture development, all the countries of the region and outside the region, including India, including even China, they really welcomed Ikarda to come and work on their soil, on their stations, on their labs. So what we did after the first, I would say, quick move for the safety of the staff, we developed a decentralization strategy. This decentralization strategy has been developed within a year time and was approved by our board and approved also by the board of the CGIAR, the consortium board. Then we have now 3 major hubs for Ikarda, one in Morocco for the cereal-based production systems where the breeding work is. One is in Ethiopia where we have the small ruminant livestock rangeland, because as you may know, the Horn of Africa is a place where you have lots of drought, but livestock is a very important source of livelihood. And we have the third platform is India, where we are working on food legumes like chickpea, lentil, grass pea, fava bean, and even peas. We have a collection of peas. So these are the 3 platforms. We also have thematic research locations. In Egypt, we have high input agriculture. As you know, Egypt irrigated agriculture. So this is for high input. In Ankara, Turkey, we have winter wheat with our sister center, Simit, and winter barley. We established, the Turkish government did support us to establish a Rust center in Izmir, in Turkey. And we have, of course, work also on heat tolerance in Sudan because of the high temperature. So I think this is now the strategy we are working on. Certainly, we did move temporarily to Lebanon as temporary headquarters because originally, and it's interesting to record, that when ICARDA was established in 1977, the center was supposed to be in Lebanon and Syria was supposed to be a satellite site for lowlands, and Iran at the Shah time was supposed to be for the highlands. Then when the civil war broke in Lebanon in 75, ICARDA had to move Syria. The Syrian government gave ICARDA 1,000 hectares, a big location. So we moved the headquarters from Lebanon to Syria. And the first Director General was in Lebanon, interestingly. And now, because of the civil war in Syria, we are making good use of our agreement that we had in 77 with Lebanon. So our corporate services now, finances, information technology, corporate services and so forth, we have it in Lebanon, but we are decentralizing that. Of course, Jordan is there for convenience. I have to mention, because also the Jordanian government welcomed us, and the thinking that a good part of what we have in Lebanon and Jordan, with the plan that they can go back to Syria if the situation improves. But the other locations I talked about, Morocco, Ethiopia, India, and the rest of the thematic research locations will stay where they are. So I think this is the strategy that we are now working on. The center certainly has met lots of challenges. And again, as Director General, I want to express appreciation to the staff and to the donor community for supporting us. One thing also for the record, I have to mention Germany has been always supporting ICARDA. As a matter of fact, in the last couple of years, their contribution has been to support the Genbank and the genetic resources. I will be mentioning this later today in my presentation. We also have, Germany supporting ICARDA, not only financially. I have to mention many German colleagues contributed to ICARDA governance. We have board members from Germany. We have Dr. Margaret Thalwitz now. She's a board member on ICARDA board from Germany. She will be here today. And we have also many senior staff from Germany. We have Dr. Velsin, who has been the Deputy Director General in the early days. I hope he will be coming today, I was told. We have Dr. Marlena Dickman. She was with us on pathology and seed health. And we have her husband, Jürgen Dickman. He was the manager of the station for about 25, 27 years. And he managed our station, probably one of the best stations in the CGIR. So we do have even now the director of our biodiversity and integrated gene management is from Germany. The head of the livestock group is from Germany. So this work that we are doing also with some German universities has been very enriching in terms of science and technology.
My last question ties into that a little bit. What do you expect from the EU, but also from other Arabic countries?
Yeah, let me tell you. The European Union and the European countries should look at ICARDA as working in their backyard. Because very frankly, to me, it is essential not only for the European countries, but for countries from the region, including the Gulf countries, to invest more in sustainable rural development, to reduce the migration not only, first of all, from rural areas to cities, and then really from cities later on to Europe or to other parts of the world. So we strongly believe that the support that the region should get, particularly at this time with the unfortunate developments, is critical. Although it's a long-term investment, it's not going to resolve the problem overnight. But certainly the support from Europe, the European Union itself, from the European countries, including Germany and others, is so critical for our part of the world in terms of enhancing sustainable rural development, to provide better job opportunities for people to avoid migration and so forth. I want to mention that the unemployment rate in our part of the world is very high in the youth. Some data that the IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, gave, you have countries with more than 60% unemployment in the age groups between 18 to 29, which certainly make them a good target for the extremists, frankly. And therefore, all of these issues in terms of sustainable development are very important.